On today's episode of Cunningham Garage, we're going to work on my '07 Lexus LS460L. Let's get to it.
Down, 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 down. Turn it up.
What's going on, everyone? So today we bring you my daily driver. This is a 2007 Lexus LS460L. So it's a long wheelbase with all the goodies in the back seat. So something that's very common, which you'll notice all this blown out over here. A common problem on these cars is the control arm bushings. They go bad. And when that happens, the whole car basically goes crazy. So, oops, sorry about that. Let me get down in here and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Put some light. So right there is the control arm bushing. And as you can see, the bushing is basically ripped apart. So that's the front top control arm. It goes down here to a ball joint. And it's the same story with the rear here. That bushing is also ripped. And then the big culprit is down here, that lower control arm. That bushing is completely destroyed. So, I know that bolt's sticking out because I actually unbolted already. So I unbolted from that side right there. So I gotta basically remove it. Let me get in here and show you guys. Look how ripped that is. So what we're gonna do is rip out the upper and lower control arms of this '07, and I'm going to replace the not ball joints. The ball joints on the other side were actually really good still, so I'm not worried about those. But we are going to replace the bushings, and I've gone to Lexus. Lexus wanted $4,000 to change that bushing. This one's already been changed, so it's not ripped. Everything's nice and tight now. So what I'm gonna do, so this is the driver's side. I've taken apart already. I'll show you guys the driver's side real quick, but I've taken it all apart and actually took these to, I took them to work. I don't have a press in my shop, I got one at work. So I took them to work and pressed out these bushings. It's very, very simple. All you do is get a socket, like just a regular tool, like a ratchet and socket. You get a socket the same size as that bushing, and put it in the press and press it out. Comes right out. Then you just press in the new one. So I'm gonna show you the driver's side real quick. So here is the driver's side. There's the spindle and the huge brakes that come on this car. So I just have all that sitting up. The top control arms are gone, so is the lower. And that's the ones I just showed you that have the new bushings put in. So there's the new bushing on that one. And now I can start bolting everything back. So the top up there's two brackets that bolt in there, and then the control arms, you have to bolt the control arm to the bracket, then put the bracket in place and bolt it to the car. This is it's not an easy job. So I'm gonna actually take you guys along. I'm gonna replace the passenger side since I've done this side already. And I'm going to disassemble it and show you guys what to look for, or at least what I'm looking for, and how much of a pain it is for me to do it. So maybe someone can get a general idea of what's going on here and what you're getting into. So the very first thing, guys, I'm going to recommend, at least this is what I'm going to do, and I have done on the other side, is take your wheel and turn it all the way so you can unbolt the brake caliper. So there's the bolts right there. Unbolt the brake caliper and slide that thing up out of the way, because it'll be in your way later. Because after that, you'll want to take the brake disc off. So I'm going to unbolt the caliper and we'll move on to the next step. So there's the brake caliper off. So I just unbolted it and hung it with a bungee cord. So I just stuck a bungee cord through it. I did have to. This piece right here goes on the outside of the brake right through there. So I just had to remove this to fit the bungee cord in there. And then I just hooked it onto some little factory holes in the fender well. That way, there is no stress on your brake line, and it's completely out of the way, good to go. So the next step would be to remove your brake disc, but usually they're stuck on there. Mine's got some surface rust because the car did sit for a while, and another issue with these cars they have is these cars have a bad problem of warping the factory rotors. So I went to go cut the factory rotors. I was doing a brake job on this, and the rotors were too thin. So I had to buy new ones. Factory ones from Lexus were like $300 and something. So I got these for, I think, $100. They're cross-drilled and slotted, fit right on the car, and I have not had one problem out of them. They brake just fine. I wouldn't say they brake better than factory. It feels about the same. But so far, no warping. I've had them on the car for about a year. Highly recommend them. Unless you just want to go factory, that's up to you. But to get this thing off, you're going to have to take a little bolt right here. I think it's like a 12 millimeter by something. Look in your bolt bin, stick that in there, and then once that's on there, just crank that down and it'll pop off the brake disc because it might be stuck, which mine is. So let's pop that off. Brake disc is off. Like I said, I just crank down that little bolt and you'll hear a pop and it should come loose. So the next thing I'm going to do is those little cotter pins. It's a safety pin. It goes through the castle nut there. So the only thing you'll need to do is take a pair of just side cutters, pliers, whatever's going to fit, and you'll grab right here. There you go, and pull it out. So that's what it looks like. So that's why you pull this one out and just pull it back and it'll come right out. So there's going to be basically one of those on every castle nut on this suspension, pretty much. So you get those off and then I can go to the next part. Okay, so another little step is, let me pick it up real quick. This is the dust shield. It went on about right there. On the driver's side, I didn't have to take it off, although I should have probably. But I removed the passenger side one because, one, it gives me more room for activities. And now I can reach both sides a lot easier without dealing or bending this. Two, this sensor, I didn't want to cut the strap that was holding that sensor down. I also had to take this off the brake too. That, if it'll focus, this is the sensor that, shows wear. There it is. This is your pad wear sensor. So you'll have to pull this off one of the brake pads. And I had to remove that clip that goes onto the brake pads too to get this out. So that way, I just took it all off in one unit. Now I've got more room. So next I'm going to start tackling maybe, let me get a light. Moving this stuff right here. So this is out of the way. By the way, that line right there was bolted there and there. So I just unbolted it and put the bolts right back in place. Same thing with the front here. Unbolted it, put the bolts back in place because if you work on cars a lot, it sucks losing bolts, or you put a bolt in the wrong place, it's too long or too short. So I'm going to figure out what step I need to do next, and I'll come back and show you. So there's the next step. What I'm doing is I broke, see that little gap? I broke that nut loose. It's a 17, but I used big boy here. Big old, it's a 3/8 or 3/4 inch impact. So, yeah, it made quick work of that bolt. But now I loosened it and brought it up to the top of the thread there. And now I've got a puller to pop that loose. So all you do is put a wrench on there or an impact and just hit it real quick. It'll pop that little ball joint loose. So there it is. There's the next part. Let me fix the lighting. So there's the top control arms. You can see where I busted that loose. I actually did that one by hand with a wrench. So you can do it by hand, but if not, you're going to need an impact. So there's the one, the other one that's loose. So I got a little gap there, and now I have the puller. I forgot what these are called. It's some kind of puller. You can get it at a, you can get them at like a, auto parts store or somewhere, or you can order it online somewhere for a few dollars. They're pretty cheap. It's definitely worth having. So I'm gonna pop those loose, because as you can see, that one I already popped loose. That took a lot of effort, but that puller made quick work of it. So I'm gonna make quick work of these two real quick, and then I'm gonna start on everything on the lower. So sway bar link, the lower ball joint, and then I'll have to discuss. Let me get in here. That bolt right there is a little tricky. I'll talk about that when I get to it. So there it is. Ball joints are out. I'll have to clean all that up. It's a little filthy. But I mean, that puller, a few turns and they popped right out. So then I just took them out, and this is where they sit. So I'm going to show you real quick. This is how bad these are. That shouldn't wobble. That shouldn't do that. That bushing is completely, yeah. Same thing with this side. They shouldn't be wobbly like that. So imagine these are supposed to stay nice and firm and just go up and down with the suspension. But this thing was riding. I mean, it's still, the funny thing is the car still rode nice and smooth. But when it rained, oh man, you would hit a puddle and this thing would change direction. Plus it was destroying my front tires. So I have already unbolted the top of the front shock and the bottom part of it. That way I'm going to go ahead and pull this section out next, and we'll go to the brackets next. Next step, shock and spring are gone. So what I did was, it was unbolted from the top, unbolted these two, which able to move the spindle forward, which gave me more room to lift the shock off that mount and move it over and basically lower the whole thing through. Careful with your, don't damage that. Your brake line, there we go. Yeah, it's cold outside and my brain ain't working too well. Yeah, don't damage your brake line when you're pulling your shock and spring out. And then you'll pull it out, and there it is. On the floor, just set it aside so it doesn't get damaged. So now we have access to those bolts right there. So the front control arm is held on by a bracket. And you just take that top bolt out, that middle, and then there's a lower one right there. And it's basically the same story on this side. So there's a bottom one, and then on this one there's only two. There's a top and a bottom. This one has three. I don't know why. Thank you, Lexus, for engineering some weird stuff. So you don't have to unbolt these because you won't be able to get the bolts out. So the best thing to do is just unbolt the whole bracket and remove it. So I'm going to do that real quick and show you what it looks like. Okay, everyone, so see, top control arms are gone. Put your bolts back in where you took them out, because they are different. See, that one's like a gray color. Those are silver. The bottom ones are pretty much about the same. But something I'm going to show you real quick. It's going to help you. This bracket, there's the whole bracket. So next you'll just unbolt the control arm from that. It's pretty easy. I'll show you that in a minute. But a tip to make your life easier, the two bolts up here, don't unbolt them first. Unbolt the bottom one right there first, because that actually holds, that actually holds that bracket kind of in a bind. So when you loosen this one up and pull it out, it kind of loosens. And the top two, you could basically take, all three of them, all of them up here, you can take out with just a socket and ratchet by hand. They're not super tight or anything. There's nothing crazy, no crazy torques on them. But taking the bottom one out will make these two a whole lot easier to when you break them loose. You can just undo them by hand and pull them out. So top control arms are actually pretty easy. The bottom one, yeah, that's yeah. Yep. Okay, let's get to that one. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and break that one loose. So some of these like that, that's what you'll probably need an impact for. Or at least that's what I'm gonna do because I'm lazy. So I'm gonna unbolt that one and then move up to that and then move up to that one right there. So, yep. So let me go ahead and unbolt that and I'll come back to you. So there it is. No more lower control arm. There it is in my hand. Now I'm going to show you something. Look how bad that is. You can't even tell from this, but that's not supposed to come out. Let me hold this with my feet. So this part right here, I mean, this is supposed to be like that. So this is supposed to be in here. That's how it came from the factory. So it kind of looked like that, to where the big chunk stuck out, oops, over here. And then the bushing was, you know, if I can get the focus, there we go. It was all connected here, but this thing, over time, which is common with these, that bushing just lets go. Look how destroyed that bushing is. And because of that, it was just bouncing around. Look at that. Do you think I needed a new one? I mean, it disintegrated. So that's why we're doing this. But something I want to show you guys is this bolt right here is the furthest in bolt for the control arm. And something I wanted to show you is I freaked out when I first started doing this because it goes through here like that. Well, something you'll notice is there is the steering. There's for the steering rack right here. Well, if the wheel is faced forward like straight, you can't pull that bolt out. It hits the steering rack. There we go. It'll come out to about that far and hit the steering rack. So what you got to do is turn the wheel all the way to one side and it pulls the shaft of that part of that rack in. And once it does that, you can pull it out. And then you can just slip it out like that and get the control arm out. So if you're doing it and you get to that part of, you know, oops, sorry, bad lighting. You get to that part and get frustrated, don't worry about it. Move your wheel and you'll be fine. And always stick the parts back in so you know where they went. So the next step, by the way, the bottom ball joint on the lower control arm. Yeah, all I gotta say, guys, is good luck. I had the puller on there. It's gonna take the puller and a lot of force. I would recommend taking the castle nut off. This is what I did. So this is, let me grab the castle nut. So this is the lower ball joint castle nut. It's a pretty big nut, but you don't want to put the puller against that because it'll actually bend the little pieces right here on the castle nut. So what I did is took that off, looked in my junk bin, and I had a bolt, pretty big size, that was pretty much the same size as the original castle nut. So I put this on top and threaded it to where it's flush. That way I would damage this bolt, not that one. Just something I've done over the years. Always keep a bunch of spare junk bolts just to, you know, do stuff with. So, back to the car. That light is kicking my ass. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to clean this up. The front joint right there, that was the only good one. This is like the front trailing arm, I think it's called. But that's a huge bushing in there, and that is the only one that I guess survived all this. Everything else looks good, came apart pretty easy, except that lower ball joint. And yeah, I'm going to now take everything. I mean, look at this. So I'm going to take this. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and take the lower control arm and those two, and I'm going to go to work. Press those bushings out. Well, I'll take you guys with me. We'll just go. There's a 20-mile ride for me, about 2 seconds for you guys. So I'm going to take these and go push these out and show you the sockets I got that'll fit over top and press it out. Real quick before we go and press some bushings, guys. So here is the top control arm. There's the two brackets. Unbolted them real quick, real easy. Well, shouldn't be a problem for you. But look, you can see where the bushing has separated. That's freaking awful. So that's why I had that wobble when I could grab the control arm and wobble it around. Because that has come undone. Yeah, you can see where it's separated. So we're going to press the new ones in. You can also see where it's not even like lined up anymore. It's freaking crooked. So let's go press these real quick. Here we are, guys. This is the press we'll be using. Works pretty good. Here's one of the control arms. There's a bad bushing. There's the other bad bushings that I already pressed out. There's the new ones. So you can see how much better that looks, that one compared to this one. So here's the sockets I was telling you about. So what I'm going to be doing is basically taking a socket like this one. No, not that one. Here we go. So what you'll do, you find a socket. So that one, this will be for the lower control arm, and it's a 36mm deep well. And the reason I have a 36mm deep well is because that part right there, that will fit down inside of that. Let me put this down so you can see that will fit in there all the way flush. That way you can press this part out. So what I'm going to do is take this big socket, which is, let's see, where is it? 2 inches. It's a massive socket. I'll put it up on there, and then I'm going to put the control arm. See how the control arm will fit? That will fit on the outside of this right here. So that'll ride. Sorry about the camera angles. That'll ride right there. Actually, this one will. Sorry, I had the bigger one. You see how that fits? That way that bushing will slide out right inside of this one. So this one is a 1 3/4. So that's what I'm going to use. So that'll go on there. That will sit on top. And then let me raise that up real quick. And then I will take one of these, and basically that's going to be, that's how it'll look. And then that will come down and press that out. Let me set this up and I'll let you watch me press it out. So here it is. So I've got that socket, the 1 1/4, 1 1/4, whatever you want to call it, and then 1 3/4. It's going to sit like that. So I'm going to start pressing. So you'll hear it. There you go. So you can see it going down. And that's all it takes. And that will fall down in the socket. There you go. Release. Make everything fall. There's the old one. It's out. Here's what the control arm looks like. Ready for the new one. So you just do the same thing. You'll set that control arm up here and put the new bushing in with that same socket. So I'm gonna set it up and I'll let you guys watch me press the next one in. So here is the next one set up, 1.25 inch, and I put a washer between them. That way I'm pressing on the outside metal. I'm pressing on this, not the bushing, because that's not gonna go, the bushing's not gonna be flush. A little bit of it is going to stick out, like, no, see how it sticks out on either side? So that's what you want. You want it to stick out about evenly on either side, so you can have that washer there. So we'll just press it down. A press is a beautiful thing. And that's it. You'll take it out where it looks about good, and then you'll undo this and just make sure it's even top and bottom. You know, you can measure it and make sure the top and bottom are sticking out on both sides. So I'm gonna undo this and check it. So here it is, guys. There's the new bushing in. Looks a hell of a lot better. These two are done also. You can see where I pushed it in. So here's the old ones. So that's the lower control arm. It actually broke off in 2 pieces where I pressed it out. Freaking, that's how awful that was. And there's the other one. That's not supposed to fall apart. So here's the parts I used. So a press, and then I got some washers. Basically, get your bushings, bring them with you to Home Depot or some parts store, and find what's gonna fit, what you think is gonna fit. Because believe me, you're gonna try all kinds of different routines and ways to make this work. But it does work. And a whole lot cheaper than Lexus. So let's get back to the garage. Okay everyone, we're back from the shop. We didn't go to the garage. It's actually like 2 months later. That's why I've been putting a video out. I've been very busy. So as you can see, the car is put back together. I figured I wouldn't go ahead and make a video of me putting it back together because, you know, you saw me take it apart. You could put it back together the same way you took it apart. But I did go ahead and replace the ball joints and the bushings, everything on the car, because the ball joints were bad also. And I will recommend, like I think I said earlier in this video, I would pay someone else to do the ball joints themselves. And then the bushings you can do on your own. But the car is back together. I've driven it for a while now, and everything is great. Drives straight. All the little clunks and issues I had are gone. But unfortunately, the car is going away. I got it fixed because I'm trading the car in, and it's time to move on to a brand new car, which I will be showing on the channel very soon, probably next few days. Time to move on, let someone else enjoy the car. I basically repaired all the common issues, so whoever gets the car next is gonna get a really good car for a long time. Also, since I replaced all the bushings, I broke the radiator. So I went ahead and replaced that, and I didn't make a video about it, but it's actually extremely simple to fix that. So if you bust your radiator, don't worry about it. It's very cheap and simple to fix. It cost me around $100 to do everything. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And I'm gonna start putting out more video because I've been slacking because, I mean, everything that's been going on this year so far. But it's time to get back into it, and hope to see you next time.